Therapy is built on trust. One person opens up their deepest vulnerabilities, expecting the therapist to act with professionalism and care. Strict boundaries exist to protect the patient, keeping the relationship focused on healing, not confusion or harm. These boundaries are what make therapy different from friendship or romance. A therapist is not your friend, but a trained professional. When boundaries blur, the power dynamic becomes dangerous. The therapist holds authority. The patient is often in distress. If that power is misused, even with good intentions, the damage can be immense. Boundaries are like a sterile field in surgery, essential for safety. Breaking them is like using contaminated tools. It introduces risks that should never be present. When trust is broken, the patient can be left more wounded, confused, or betrayed. In extreme cases, violating these ethics can have catastrophic consequences. The story of Dr. Simon Hale and his patient Emily is a tragic reminder. These boundaries are not just guidelines, they are a matter of life and death. They are a protective barrier that must never be crossed. Dr. Simon Hale appeared to be the perfect therapist. Kind, calm, respected, and highly credentialed. His reputation was built on decades of compassionate work and glowing testimonials. He was seen as a pillar of the mental health community, someone people trusted with their deepest struggles. But beneath this polished image was a hidden flaw, a deep need to be a rescuer. He was drawn to complex cases, not just for the challenge, but for the emotional reward of feeling indispensable. This rescuer complex is a known danger in therapy. It can lead to overstepping boundaries. Instead of empowering patients, the therapist starts to see them as projects to fix. When a particularly vulnerable patient arrived, Dr. Hale saw someone he was destined to save. His desire for validation began to overshadow his duty to his patient. The respected Dr. Hale was on a path to breaking the most fundamental rule: do no harm. His journey would show how even the best intentions can become dangerous without strict ethical lines. The power of trust, when abused, can turn a healer into a source of harm. This is where the tragedy began. The line between help and harm is thinner than it seems. Emily, a talented graphic designer in her late 20s, seemed to have it all, but inside, she was struggling. A painful breakup triggered old wounds of anxiety and low self-worth. She felt lost, overwhelmed, and unable to find relief from her pain. Friends and family tried to help, but she needed more than comfort. She needed professional guidance. Emily bravely sought therapy, hoping to understand her pain and regain her confidence. She found Dr. Simon Hale, whose reputation promised safety and expertise. Their first sessions gave her hope. She felt seen and understood for the first time in months. Dr. Hale's attentive listening and validation made her trust him deeply. In her vulnerable state, she placed her well-being in his hands, believing he would honor the professional code. She saw him as a wise authority, never suspecting he could become a source of danger. This trust is what makes therapy powerful, and what makes boundary violations so devastating. Emily's hope became the foundation of her vulnerability. She had no idea how much was at risk. The first boundary crossings were subtle, sessions running long, framed as dedication. Emily felt special, not realizing this was the start of dependency. Soon, Dr. Hale gave her his personal number, encouraging contact outside sessions. Supportive texts became frequent and personal, blurring professional lines. He brought her gifts, a novel, a blanket, turning the office into a cozy, intimate space. These gestures seemed kind, but they eroded the neutrality essential to therapy. Each small violation was easy to justify, but together they shifted the relationship. Dr. Hale was feeding his need to be a savior, making Emily dependent on him, not the therapeutic process. He taught her that safety came from him personally, not from skills she could use on her own. The professional fence was being dismantled, leaving Emily exposed. This slow creep of boundary violations is how harm begins. What felt like care was actually control. Emily's trust was being used to make her vulnerable. The line between therapy and personal attachment was gone. She was no longer just a patient, she was becoming his project. As Emily grew more dependent, Dr. Hale began to isolate her from her support system. He questioned the intentions of her friends and family, positioning himself as the only one who truly understood her. Emily started to believe him, pulling away from those who cared about her. Her world shrank, with Dr. Hale at the center. This isolation is a classic tactic of manipulators, whether intentional or not. A healthy support network offers reality checks and different perspectives. By cutting Emily off, Dr. Hale eliminated any outside voices that could challenge his influence. He created an echo chamber where only his guidance mattered. Emily believed he was her sole protector, but in reality, she was trapped. Her ability to question the relationship was gone. She had no one to turn to for a second opinion. This total control, disguised as care, left her extremely vulnerable. She was alone with a man who was no longer acting as her therapist. The invisible cage was complete. Emily's dependence was now absolute. Dr. Hale's final act was his most reckless. He proposed a private retreat at a remote cabin, claiming it was the ultimate healing experience. Emily, isolated and trusting, agreed, hiding the truth from her family. The retreat had no oversight, no medical support, and no accountability. At the cabin, Dr. Hale's methods became even more unorthodox: intense emotional exercises, risky breathwork, and cold water immersion. He was no longer a therapist, but a self-appointed guru conducting dangerous experiments. During one session in the icy lake, Emily lost consciousness and suffered cardiac arrest. Dr. Hale, untrained for emergencies, couldn't save her. By the time help arrived, it was too late. Emily had died. The rescue fantasy ended in tragedy. Dr. Hale's arrogance and negligence had fatal consequences. The boundaries meant to protect Emily had been completely erased. The cost was her life. After Emily's death, a legal investigation began. Dr. Hale tried to frame the tragedy as an accident between friends, denying his professional responsibility. But evidence showed a clear pattern of boundary violations and manipulation. The court found that Emily's consent was invalid due to the power imbalance. Dr. Hale's actions were grossly negligent and reckless. His duty of care as a therapist never ended, even outside the office. The retreat was an illegal extension of therapy, not a personal trip. Dr. Hale was found guilty of manslaughter. The verdict sent a message. Ethical boundaries in therapy are legal and moral imperatives. Abuse of power is a criminal betrayal of trust. Emily's death was not a mistake. It was the result of a fatal abuse of authority. Emily's story is a warning and a lesson in self-protection. Healthy therapy has clear boundaries. Sessions start and end on time. Contact is professional, and the office remains neutral. Be wary of therapists who present themselves as saviors or encourage dependence. A good therapist empowers you, not rescues you. Therapy should make you stronger and more independent, not reliant on your therapist. Watch for attempts to isolate you from friends and family. A competent therapist respects your support network. Trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. Warning signs include personal gifts, informal meetings, or excessive personal sharing. If you feel uneasy, seek a second opinion or consult a licensing board. Your safety is the top priority. The most important lesson is to trust your intuition. Authority figures can be valuable, but your inner compass matters most. If something feels wrong, listen to that feeling. Boundaries in therapy create safety, not distance. When a therapist breaks those rules, the relationship becomes about their needs, not yours. Remember, you are hiring a professional. You have the right to ask questions, set limits, and end therapy if it doesn't feel safe. A good therapist welcomes open communication and respects your boundaries. Protecting yourself means honoring your feelings. If you feel uncomfortable or overly dependent, talk to someone you trust or seek another professional. Don't let credentials override your instincts. Your feelings are valid data. The story of Dr. Hale and Emily is a stark reminder. Boundaries keep patients safe, and your intuition is the gatekeeper. Trust it. It could save your life.